All right, here we go. The live streaming has begun, and I'm taking a look to make sure that I'm appearing also on my channel. So, as people are coming in, I encourage you to say hi, uh, write something in the comments, give me some love as we're getting online. All right. So I'm excited to. Hey, Pat. Good to see you here. There'll be a couple people hopping on. I'm excited today to dive into talking a little bit about the business of coaching, which, as many of you know, is a huge passion of mine. And specifically today, I want to zoom in on the nature of being a professional giver as coaches. And in this live, I'd ideally like to have it go back and forth between a little bit of teaching and a little bit of interacting. So feel free to post comments, questions. There might be some times where I'm teaching and then I'll get back to you. But as you're coming in, drop some love in the comments. And for those who are watching this on replay, feel free to do so as well. And I hope to create a lot of great value for you today. So, being a professional giver, setting the context. Within the business of coaching, the fundamentals really, really matter. This is something I've learned over and over again, like for myself, what I've seen in the coaches that I've coached. I remember when I first read The Prosperous Coach, probably in maybe 2013. I remember reading it and thinking, it's like, oh, well, that sounds like a really nice idea. Like, that sounds cool. I'd love to try that someday. And it wasn't until some bad directions in 2015 where I actually got to join Steve Chandler's Coaching Prosperity School, then called the ACS, that I started to actually get it. There's a difference between these good ideas about ways to have a amazing prosperous coaching business and actually living those. So this idea of being a professional giver is that idea of selling the experience, not the concept. And you'll see some variation of this in pretty much most coaching businesses. There's some version of have a free discovery call with me, have a free session with me, get this little sampler, or let's have this conversation to help you decide whether to hire me or not as a coach. The tactic is often the same amongst coaches, but where it's coming from can be vastly different. And what I want to point to today is when you come from being a professional giver, and I'll talk more about what that means, at least to me, that's when everything shifts. That's what changes everything from thank you, no, people not even really wanting a free session with you, to them thanking you for offering a gifted session, them being overjoyed that you're willing to spend some time with them referring other people to you. So love to Kyle and Nicole. Good to see you here. Happy to have you on board. And if you have questions or just comments, feel free to throw them out during. Going into what's a professional giver? So let's break it down. All right. What do I mean by being professional? Professional doesn't mean just that you're getting paid now. There's plenty of people who are charging. There's plenty of people who are even making a living as a coach, which I still might not refer to as a professional. There isn't a concise definition that I like using here, but there is a feeling to it. There's some when you are a professional at something. I think the etymology of the word professional means to declare publicly. Like, this is what I am, this is what I do, this is what I stand for. There's a level of dedication, there's a level of mastery, as in continuously getting better at. There's a level of discipline. Like, this is something that you organize your life around. It's something that important to you. It is something that you're committed to. It's something that you still do even when you don't feel like it. It's something that you still sit down and you do the work on the days where you don't feel like doing the work. It's not something that comes and goes based on mood. But perhaps even more importantly, at least for when it comes to being a professional coach, as opposed to like an amateur coach, a coach who just sort of loves coaching. A professional coach is focused on the other person. A professional coach knows that this entire business, what they're doing, is about the change that happens in someone else's world. That's what gets most of the focus. All of the personal stuff starts becoming secondary to what's going on for that person. When you're professional, what you're doing is about them, not about you. So let's talk about giving. What does it mean to be a giver? A common assumption that people will fall into is that they'll think of things in terms of physical metaphors. Like, I have a certain number of things to give, and if I give them, I lose them, and they gain them. Like, I'm gifting 10 minutes to this person, I'm gifting 2 hours to this person. I lose, they gain. That would make sense if we were exchanging physical things. Coaching is like, it's not manual labor. And all of these metaphors that we used that are based on manual labor really don't apply to coaching. They don't apply in most areas of life, and especially not to coaching. So giving is not zero sum. When you give, you don't lose. And actually, when you give, you create. You get something when you give. They get something when you give, when it's done well. And the trap, one of the many traps, and I'll sort of like point out some traps. One of the traps is coaches thinking that they're taking. This especially shows up when coaches are like worried about charging money for coaching. It's just like, oh, I don't know if they can afford it. It's like, I don't want them to spend like their hard-earned money, like their valuable money, just like to pay me for this little thing called coaching. But even more subtly is when coaches, especially beginning coaches, especially if they're kind of in the grips of imposter syndrome, independent of whether they're actually impactful or not, it feels like they're taking even when they're gifting a coaching session to someone. it's like going around just like, will you please have a coaching session with me? Will you, like, can I please help you? It's like, really, I think I can help you, but there's this air of scarcity. It feels like you're taking someone's time in order to give them something. So that's something to work through as a coach. And the approach that I teach, so like what I teach the coaches that I coach, what I teach within Coaching with Integrity, is that giving is not taking. Like, you're not taking from them, and they're not taking from you either. That's part of like that combination of professional giver. Like, they don't get to just claim as much time as they want with you, and you're not taking the time from them either. All right, so I want to read what Kyle's writing here. Hi, Deb. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, Kyle, good question. I might come back around to that, around like managing energy. I think there's a point later on that will speak to that. One idea that I want to share specifically around professional giving is there's an excellent book by Adam Grant called Give and Take, very appropriate for this topic today. And there's some research done about how generous people are in service and how that relates with how successful they are. And so this research that was done divided up people between the givers, the takers, and the matchers. So the givers, their orientation was they didn't keep score. They just would give. They'd give here, they'd give there. It's like they would just give generously to anyone and everyone. There's a selflessness with the givers. The takers had an orientation of what's in it for me. Like, it was purely like from, I'm going to focus on what's good for me. And like, that's my world. Like, I don't really care about anything else. You'll often hear from these people this belief that if everyone is perfectly selfish, that's going to lead to good behavior. In experience, I've found that that's not quite the case. Then there's the matchers, which sound a bit more rational. The matchers keep score. They want to make sure that if they give, it's going to be worth it. This is both that physical metaphor again of I'm going to lose something by giving. And you can already kind of feel the scarcity, the fear behind the matcher as well. Like, this better be worth it. If I gift a coaching session to this person, it better lead to them signing up, or it better lead to a referral. Like, you can feel the need behind it. So the studies that were talked about in Give and Take, they discovered that the most successful type were the givers. They're the most successful people across the board out of the givers, the takers, and the matchers. And the least successful type were also givers. Because there are two types of givers. There are the professional givers who have a strong sense of self. They have a strong sense of how much they can give without draining themselves. And then there were the givers who just sort of gave and gave and gave, but they didn't have a strong sense of self. In a way, they're sort of like the amateur givers. Like, the amateur givers were the less successful givers. And not to out yourself for like where you might be right now, but if you used to be one of these, if you used to be more of a taker or a matcher, feel free to call yourself out in the comments. Me, myself, I started falling into being a taker when I first became a professional coach. See, unfortunately, after reading The Prosperous Coach, I didn't quite believe it, and I ended up kind of doing the opposite. I went into one of those marketing training programs for a year and learned and tried to do all the stuff that the Prosperous Coach was begging me not to do, telling me it doesn't work. And lo and behold, it turned out it didn't work. I ended up pretty much going broke during that program. And it's I it started creating some bad habits. Fortunately, I had enough self-awareness and I quickly turned around, rediscovered Steve Chandler's work, and then realized how I had gone off track. But during that training, and what I see most coaches being taught is that I should be paid for my time. There's this sense of entitlement. There's this sense of, and it makes sense in order to sort of pump yourself up if you're feeling not very worthy. It's like sort of boosting someone's ego. It's just like, okay, you're talented, you're worth it, you're worth it. But that can also turn into, on the business side, of people should pay me for my time. If I help someone, that means that they owe me. And you shouldn't really help them until they pay. There's the psychological trap of reciprocation, that if you gift something to someone, they will start to feel like they owe you. And not so well-meaning marketers will actually encourage that. They will gift things in order to create this reciprocation, and then they will take advantage of that. When you're being a professional giver, when you're actually focused on service, when you're actually focused on selling the experience, not the concept, when you're not needy and you're actually being generous, you even want to try to counteract any reciprocation. Like when you're giving to someone, you are reassuring them, you're telling them, it's like, hey, you do not owe me anything for this. You're free to say no. I'm just here to help. And if there's an opportunity for them to be helped more, if they're interested in more, they can ask. You can give them an invitation, but trying to not even let themselves feel like they owe you anything. The turnaround that happened for me after that training is I reread Wealth Warrior by Steve Chandler. And I was struggling financially at the time after doing that training, after like niche and elevator pitches and work on websites and trying to sell programs and such, just marketing. I reread Wealth Warrior, and the central message of that is that wealth is a product of service and creativity. And basically, it's sort of like that paraphrased over and over again throughout the book. And finally, like one of the ways it was phrased got through to me. Instead of like, oh yes, I serve and then I get paid, I got the frame of, if your bank account is empty, that is a sign that you have not been serving. It wasn't a formula. It was a description. Like, it's the check engine light. If like my bank account was really low and that was the check engine light telling me I hadn't been serving people, I wasn't actually helping, I realized reading that I was being an asshole, that I had just spent about a year being trained to be an asshole, describing all the amazing things that would happen if you hired me, all the amazing things that would happen in your life if you coached with me. But I wasn't actually helping anyone during that process. I was selling the concept, not the experience. I was talking about coaching, but I wasn't actually coaching anyone. And this is one of the traps that I see so many coaches falling into, even when they have the structure of a discovery session or a free coaching session or something. They have that conversation with a client, and instead of actually helping that client in that session, instead of actually making a difference in their life, they end up using up that entire conversation just figuring out if they're going to hire them or not by whatever means necessary. It's like, well, if we work together, I might be able to help you with that thing that you have. I mean, there's a place for talking about what happens after they pay. And I'll talk about that in a future Facebook Live, perhaps. But more fundamental is, are you creating value for everyone that you come in contact with? Especially someone who comes into one of those initial conversations with you. Because if someone comes into an initial conversation with you, but no difference is made in their life, they probably should not hire you. So it's not the form. It's not so much like what you do. It's because most coaches have some version of, here's a free session, here's a free conversation, and or two or three before signing up. It's, where are you coming from? What really matters? And where is your attention? When you're doing an initial coaching with someone, when you're inviting someone into initial coaching, when you're sending an email to a potential client, is your attention on them, or is the attention on you? Yeah, so those in chat, give me a 1 if you're still with me. Share any impact that you're getting right now. Cal says that he's honestly, he's currently a matcher. Hopefully, after this call, Kyle, you'll start to veer more and more into the giver territory. Nicole says, powerful. Deb used to be more of a self-sacrificer. It's like another category. It's like, let me just bleed. And yeah, Deb, and you definitely are a giver now. All right, good question from Kyle. How do I keep transitioning from matcher to a professional giver? Good question. Let me think. One that I've already spoken to, but I'm going to sort of bring back. Check your metaphors. If it feels like your metaphors are treating coaching like manual labor, like you're going to lose something by giving, get suspicious. So that's one. Also, moving from matcher to giver, there's a need to address any scarcity mindset in order to really lean into giving. Ideally, and there's a couple places where that scarcity can come in. One is needing the money, and another is needing approval. So when you need the money, you got two options, both of which most coaches do not like. One option is get a job. If you are a financially struggling coach and it feels like you have to get the coaching from not working to working really quickly, or your livelihood is at risk, it might be time to do whatever you need to do to make the money elsewhere. Whether it's getting a job, going back to that job, getting a loan, lowering your expenses, like do whatever you need to do to get the money handled so that you don't have that extra pressure on the business. The other one, which is advanced, it's the one that most coaches will try, and I'm not sure if I recommend it or not. I probably would just coach people on a case-by-case basis for it, but it's dropping the thought when you're talking to someone. You might spend most of your day worried about your bank balance, but when you hop onto a coaching call with someone, you let all that go. You forget that you need the money. You might need a client, but you do not need this client. So it's a check on how far along are you in your own personal growth. Are you able to let go of your scarcity so that it doesn't actually impact your service? So the other trap that will drag you into matching or even taking instead of giving is needing approval. Yeah, like a good check throughout the coaching business is what you're doing, is what you're thinking, is what you're focusing on about them. Is it about making a difference in their life, or is it about you? If you're people pleasing, if you're approval seeking, if you're wanting to look good and impressive, if you're wanting to be nice, if you're wanting to make sure that you don't upset the potential client, can you at least catch that you're doing it? If you can catch that you're doing it, that's going to be most of the value right there. Because as soon as once you can catch it, you might be able to name it, you might be able to bring it into the session, or at least if you're good at catching it, it'll start to shift on its own. Checking to see if I have more notes on this. Yeah, glad that was helpful, Kyle. Thank you for the question. Yeah, so one distinction related to this is giving versus pleasing. Anything that feels like people pleasing, worthiness seeking, imposter syndrome, I'm not sure if I'm good, I'm giving coaching sessions with the hope of getting good feedback, with the I hope it works. One of the ways that I can detect this is from the way that people talk about those initial sessions that they give to people. Usually, the language that I like to use is that these sessions are gifted, as opposed to referring to them as free. when they're free, it sounds like, and this isn't necessarily true, but it can be a sign that you, the coach, are not valuing what you are giving to this person. Like, it's free, it's like no cost, it's whatever. It's just my time, it's just the potential to change your entire life in an hour. But it's not really worth anything. It's free, it's no cost. Check to see if you have that energy around those sessions. I find it especially suspicious when strangers can go to a coach's website and via a scheduling link claim time on that coach's calendar. That a complete stranger can come in and take your time. It's a subtle clue that you might not be valuing your coaching. I like to intentionally use the word gifted. Gifting coaching sessions. For one thing, I myself, when I use that word, I'm acknowledging this is something really valuable. Like, this is something that might be worth $100, $1,000, and I'm freely, generously gifting it to someone because I'm excited about how much this might help this person. It's also, another thing I like about the word gifted is I have agency. I choose who to gift a session to. I choose whether to gift a session to someone. If I gift a session to someone and they start scheduling another session without me offering, that's suspicious. That's a sign that I actually haven't really been leading. That's a sign that they haven't been valuing the coaching session. And that might be a sign that I hadn't been valuing the coaching session. One of the things I noticed is that where I came from shifted, when I really got the value of coaching and I really started focusing on value for the other person, like when I made these internal shifts, I'm not sure if I changed my language or my business structures that much at all, but people treated me differently. People treated my invitations into a coaching session very differently. And like, the energy matters here. So, giving versus pleasing, are you giving because of how you hope that they think about you? Are you giving for how you hope you think about yourself? Or are you giving because you know it's really valuable and you know that the world is going to be better for you giving and might make a difference in their life? Great question from Adam. I'm curious how you choose whom to give to. There's a good tip from Give and Take on this matter. Give to the givers. Give and Take also says like give to the matchers, but I kind of like giving to the givers. And when you give to the matchers and when you give to the takers, learn to feel that that's happening. In a way, when you give, especially when you give to the takers, rather than that creating much value in the world, that like the value of that is probably in testing your boundaries, testing your agreements. How clear are you in your own structures? Because when you give to a taker, for one thing, I recommend emails beforehand to and some screening to rule out the takers. Because chances are the takers, they don't even really want to change themselves. When you give to the takers, it's an opportunity to become more professional. What do I want to say about boundaries? Who else to give to? One of the things about coaching as well is we can't, especially for one-on-one coaching, we can only help so many people. We can only have a handful of clients. Like whether it's 5 or whether it's 20, depending on how you're set up. So be intentional about, and this kind of is a paradox, like give generously. And as you give a lot, you will get a better feeling for who you'd like to give more to. You'll get a better sense which people out of the hundreds of people that you start having the opportunity to give to, which of them you'd like to gift a conversation to, which of them you'd like to gift another conversation to, which of them you might like to have as a client. Coming from abundance, not from scarcity. From scarcity, it feels like I need to give to everyone. You'll quickly run out of time. So you get to be creative and choose your clients. If you gift a session to someone, you don't need to give them more. Like you've promised them that hour, 90 minutes, half an hour, whatever structure you have, and you're good. All right, so one more point I want to point out, or one more distinction. Giving versus selling. Giving creates. Selling takes. When you're really giving something, more is created on your side, more is created on their side, more is created in the world. There's a net gain. It's not an exchange, like it's not a loss gain. It is a net gain whenever you give. Selling, however, takes. You can feel how the energy like drains. There's a reason that in that initial session you try to sell that person, for one thing, it's much less likely for them to sign up. Like all the sales resistance will come up. And not much value is created, so they don't really have that good of a reason to sell, except maybe if you create enough insecurity to scare them into buying, which is not being a coach anymore. Also, when you sell and there's that takeaway, no one's going to want to refer you to their friends and family and contacts. You won't get referrals if you're selling. Selling is just creepy. Selling is when you hold back making a difference in their life because you don't want to actually give them the goods until they pay. It's this sort of passive aggressive. Selling is when you give, but it's a loaded give. Like you're really giving in order to get something. Like you're giving as a tactic. Another subtler, not ill-intentioned, but like innocently destructive version of selling is hustling. Hustling is when you're going for numbers. You've lost sight of helping one person at a time, And instead, you're trying to help lots of people, you're trying to get multiple clients, you're scheduling everyone. It's like this person, this person, this person. And it's a loss of intimacy. When you fail to slow down and focus on just one person at a time, that's a version of selling. And that disconnect is often enough to kill your business. Like, in a way, if you're so insecure that you're trying to get multiple clients and you're trying to do a lot of things at once and you're trying to get the word out and you're trying to do all this marketing, but you forget about that one person they have a coaching conversation with today, and you sort of rush through that because you're thinking about the next 10 people that you want to get into conversation, you'll often end up with no business. So, any other questions? Any other thoughts for the people who are here? And also for those who are on replay, feel free to drop in thoughts and insights as you're listening to this as well. I've got one more point to share before we take this home. One last thing. Okay, how it relates to the rushing. Yeah. Yeah, slow down. Be like, give to one person at a time. It's a game changer. It's one of those things that sounds so simple that we often forget to do it. So, final point. There is there's something magical about service in general. There's something magical about giving. It's one of the things that I can't describe psychologically. For those who know me, I'm sort of both very woo-woo and very practical at the same time. Like, I'm very spiritual and I'm also very critical of a lot of spiritual ideas. But there is something about the karma of service. I've noticed it in myself. I've noticed it in coaches that I coach. I notice that when I'm worried and in scarcity and I'm tight in my thinking, no matter what I do tactically, things just don't work. People start saying no, opportunities start dropping away, things don't get done. And when I sit back and I tap into how much I really want to help this person, when I really tap into wanting to make a difference in the world, when I take my attention off of myself and put attention on what's possible, when I get really excited about the possibilities of coaching, when I get really excited about, like, ooh, what could happen if, like, this person saw this, things magically start opening up. I notice that I start helping a bunch of people over here, and mysteriously, irrationally, I start getting business from other directions. It's the weirdest thing. I will start helping random people who are struggling, who I hear about. I'll like reach out and serve and serve and serve and serve current clients and past clients and potential clients. And then referrals from random people will start coming in. Random people will start sending me emails expressing interest in coaching without any logical connection between the activities. Like, it's not these people talking to these people. It's some sort of karma. And I see this with my clients as well. And it's one of those things that I can't describe or justify why it works. But you can really tell which direction you're going in based on how you feel about coaching, how you feel about the business. Are you excited? Are you leaning in? Are you generous? Are you helping people? Are you focused on others? Or are you tight in trying to figure it out and kind of basing it on fear? There's an X factor at play here, which isn't quite logical, but I have definitely observed. And one of my favorite phrases about being a giver is be relentlessly helpful. Not in order to get paid, not so that you can succeed, not really for any other reason, but for it is a natural expression of who you are as a coach, being relentlessly helpful. Checking out the comments. Yeah, so Cal's asking, what do you teach newer coaches like me regarding preparing for a gifted session? Slowing down and preparing, being present. Like a good coach, we're already very good at answering your own questions. Um, Preparing for a gifted session. There's different philosophies for what to do in an initial session. My personal favorite is to make an initial coaching conversation just pure coaching. Like this has been my format for several years. It's been the format that's been very successful for me. It's not going to necessarily be the most appropriate for all coaches, note. Um, but in an initial coaching conversation, I don't talk about paid coaching. I don't talk about programs or pricing or a next session. I just dive in and how much can I help this person within this slot of time. The context is that this is not a sales session. This is not a conversation about ongoing coaching. This is just the, it might be the only chance that I get to help this person. That's how I approach this first session. Because most gifted coaching sessions are going to be the only time that I ever coach this human being. I don't want to waste a moment of that time with talking about programs or logistics or pricing or things that might not apply to them. I want to use all of that time to get to know that human being and to make a difference in their life. Any of the setup for the session or things they might need to know about me, I'll handle that in emails beforehand. If they're interested, if at the end of one of those gifted coaching sessions, they usually are, they do something to ask me. They ask, like, how much do you charge? Or what do we do next? Or what does ongoing coaching look like? Like, there's some sort of sign of interest. And instead of going into that within that coaching session, because that would take away from the value, that would distract from whatever insights they just had, instead of going into that, I'll schedule a follow-up session. So and they start to get the experience of being a client, having that space in between coaching sessions as well. So the way that I do it is that first gifted coaching session is just pure service. How much can I help this person? I'm not going to try to sell them. If they're interested, they need to say something to me. Like if they say nothing, I say, like, I ask if we're complete and I'm out of there. And then I'm ready to start thinking about the next person. Like I don't need that person as a client. And if it didn't make enough of a difference that they're not asking, cool. No worries. All right. So I share from Elena. As a very starting coach, I wonder how do I really understand what do I actually give people clients? Having a hard time with it comes to procrastination and not giving anything at the end. As a beginning coach, it's really good to ask your clients what they're getting. Not just at the end of the session, but throughout the session. This is a good thing to do as an experienced coach as well. Checking in, it's like, hey, is this helping? What's helping? What are you hearing? What are you getting from this? Especially as a beginning coach, perhaps trust your own stories about what is and isn't working. Like trust them less and trust the client more. So ask for a lot of feedback. Like use the impact on them as a guide. And if you're not really sure what's impacting them in moment to moment, keep on asking them. And you will learn so much faster what actually makes a difference for them. And as you keep track, take notes, have a success journal, keeping track of difference made in people's lives, you'll start to gather evidence that you're making a difference. You'll start to recognize trends, ways that you seem to be particularly helpful. And fortunately, you don't need to get too intellectual about capturing all that, but you can just amass a large amount of feedback, wins. All right, so we're getting close to the end of the hour. Any final questions? Feel free to put them in the comments. I might get a chance to get to them. And in closing, I want to thank you for hopping on, for joining for this live, for your time and attention. And for those who are watching this on replay, thank you for giving your time and attention to focus on this topic. Thank you for being interested in being a professional giver. I'm hoping that this inspires you to give more into the world. And if there's anyone that you know who might be able to be inspired by some of the things that I've shared here in this talk today, feel free to tag them in this post. And if you have any questions on anything that I've covered today, anything we've talked about, feel free to email me at michael@authenticintegrity.com, or you can direct message me on Facebook. And I will be doing another Facebook Live for the next 2 weeks. So the next one, next Tuesday, the 12th, is going to be on the value of coaching. We're going to be talking about the difference in the interaction between the value of coaching and the monetary pricing of coaching. And we'll explore a bit more in that world. All right. Thank you, everyone. It has been a blast, and I will see you all next week.